Hey there, this is Michael J. Emery. I'm up in the Portland Rose Gardens in Portland, Oregon. It's a beautiful place. Definitely check it out if you ever have a chance to visit Portland, Oregon. I'd like to talk a little bit about Ericksonian hypnosis. Ericksonian hypnosis derives its name from Milton Erickson, who was a psychiatrist and psychologist during the, he really started his career during the 60s and 70s and became quite popular in the early 80s. And what he was known for was actually a form of hypnosis that was very unusual. People often didn't know that they were going into trance because he didn't utilize things like a typical hypnotic countdown or some sort of like metaphor of following a process of deepening trance that's very commonplace in a lot of schools that practice hypnosis. There's a very unique story about Milton Erickson. When he was a kid, he had polio, and he actually went through a part in his life, or a time in his life, when he actually almost passed away, and he came to and basically was paralyzed, and he was in this paralytic state for roughly, I think, about a decade of his life. And during this decade, he really had to hone his senses of sight and hearing and smell, because he couldn't get out and move around to experience the world. So it actually got to the point, so the stories go, that he could tell who was coming down the hallway to his bedroom. He could tell if it was one of his parents or one of his siblings, and then he could also determine what their mood would be like when they arrived at his room and what would be happening in their life. And he started to make deductions or guesses, and he actually became very keyed in or honed in on what people were thinking or what they were experiencing internally when they were communicating with him, just because he had to really hone these other senses that he was working with. This is a little bit of my background. It's the Ericksonian Hypnosis school, and a lot of it uses metaphor and storytelling. And when I work with a client, I understand that words are very powerful, and when I begin to use words, I could be talking about a waterfall, for example. And when I say the word waterfall, and just wait a moment, I know that, you know, off the top of your head, you're probably experiencing some form of recollection regarding a waterfall. Maybe it's one that you've visited in your life, maybe it's one that you've seen a picture of. And as you begin to think about a waterfall, maybe you can remember what it was like to hear the sound of the waterfall, or even imagine what it would be like. And at the same time, you could probably bring your attention to your skin and notice what it would be like to feel, you know, mist off of that waterfall gently landing on your skin. And by no means is this hypnotic induction. And it's something that I use with clients quite a bit, because what I can do is I can guide their attention, I can bring their attention and their awareness into areas that they're not necessarily paying attention to previously, because it's happening too quickly. A lot of misnomers have been created around hypnosis, and we see this through Hollywood and through kind of urban legend, that it's a complete loss of self-control. And I would say no, it's not, because during a state of hypnosis, nothing's ever going to happen that's going to break or jeopardize your core beliefs or your core values. You're going to maintain that connection to those core values. But what you will experience is a heightened sense of awareness and a lot of focus. It's like the aperture of a camera being shrunk down, and your focus is being put onto one specific context and the content within that context. And it becomes extremely powerful for when I'm working with clients. And you know, sometimes I'll use this with my coaching clients, and I'll often use it with my clients when I do an in-person session. It just seems to naturally happen. But the best way to think of hypnotic trance would be road trance. Most of us have been driving someplace, and as we're driving along, we're listening to the radio. And as we're listening to the radio, we're still controlling the vehicle, we're still paying attention to what's happening, yet our minds tend to wander. And I've heard it said that the longest we can keep one state or one perspective or one element of our focus on a single content or single bit of information is 90 seconds, and even that's a stretch. Think about the culture that we live in and how quickly information comes in all around us. We're kind of bombarded all of the time, and so our attention is constantly being diverted to other things. And so with hypnosis, I can really help a client to bring their attention to one content, or one context rather, and allow them to focus on that content in a way that is undisturbed, and they can pull a great deal of detail out of the content that they're revivifying or experiencing. So it's a very powerful tool that I use when I'm coaching clients. I hope this shares a little bit of a background about hypnosis. If you're curious to know more, definitely look more into Ericksonian Hypnosis. If you have questions or would like to know more about hypnosis, definitely visit my website, www.michaeljemery.com. And if you get how my services would be of value to you, definitely get in touch with me. I'd love to work with you. I'm here to serve. Be amazing.